Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-host Wintwit Dow, and Ron Richards, and we have a lot to talk about this week. Tim Cook has some shade, and we got to admit it rubs us the wrong way. We give you our reasons why. Also, how Android tends to react to big Apple announcements. That's a lot of fun to dive into. Android feature drop, not just Pixel feature drop, but Android feature drop actually has tons of new features that we dive into as well. Clear calling coming soon. No more Pixelbooks, Pixel Tablet Pro discovery, plus a whole lot of your feedback and a whole lot more next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 595, recorded Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. Google's notification Oasis. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by New Relic. Use the data platform made for the curious. Right now, you can get access to the whole New Relic platform and 100 gigs of data per month free forever. No credit card required. Sign up at newrelic.com/AAA. And by Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices, regardless of their operating system. Visit collide.com/AAA to learn more and to activate a free 14-day trial today. No credit card required. And by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to break into the world of IT? Well, get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Get 30% off when you sign up at itpro.tv/allaboutandroid and use code AAA30 at checkout. Hello, and welcome to All About Android, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Wintwit Dow.
Yeah, what's up? It's the three of us in the house. Well, actually, it's the one of us in the house. The two of you in your houses.
In the emotional house.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all together commiserating about Android. There may be tears. There may be laughter. It's quite emotional these days when it comes to the world of Android. Especially when you've got people like Tim Cook throwing around shade.
It's getting heated, man.
It's getting heated.
Not a good look. Not a good look.
No,
We're going to get
man.
into it in a little bit, but it just like, you really want, there was a day and age when we looked up to these tech leaders as people you can look up to and respect. But like when stuff like this happens and just straight up bullying goes, it's just not fun.
Oh, man.
There's a tease for the first story in the news block today.
Yeah, and I don't know what else we can really say about it without talking exactly about it. So
All right,
let's just jump right in. Usually we have like 2 to 3 minutes of preamble stuff. And by the way, it's not planned that we do that. It's nice to see I consider you guys friends. So it's nice to connect with you and
Sure.
catch up. But this week we're doing it different. We're jumping right in right now. Let's go.
Ron, I hate to pile on to what they said at the announcement, but Tim Cook totally told you to buy me an iPhone.
I think you misheard the quote. And what Burke was referring to.
He
that
did,
wasn't
really.
what
What Burke was referring to in his attempt to steal my thunder again was that we've been, ever since Google rolled out the Get the Message campaign a few weeks ago now to try to publicly shame Apple into supporting RCS, we've been wondering, like, is Apple going to respond? How would Apple respond? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then last week we finally got some semblance of a response thanks to the 2022 Code Conference last week, where Tim Cook was on stage and asked by Vox Media's Lee Kwan Hunt about improving communication between iPhone and Android. And Tim Cook said some, if you ask me, controversial quotes in response to it. First, in terms of the working together. Interoperability between iPhones and Android. Tim Cook said, I don't hear our users asking that we put a lot of energy into RCS. And then he also said, I would love to convert you to an iPhone. And Lee Kwan said, and gave the scenario that we gave often, which is that I can't send my mom videos because they come out all deresed and lower res because I'm sending from an Android, or oh no, she has an Android phone, I'm sending from an iPhone. Gave that example, and Tim Cook replied, "Yeah, buy your mom an iPhone.
Buy your mom an iPhone. It's as easy as that."
Yeah, it's not like it's expensive or anything.
I hate that. I hate that reply. I hate it.
It's really like, is it just me, or is that like classless? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, yeah. Like it's really. I was disappointed because I always thought Tim Cook seemed like a level-headed, nice guy who took over after Steve Jobs, an impossible job, and and was very, has kind of got an aw shucks kind of feeling to him, but has fought the good fight in a lot of different areas. And you thought, and that said, like I also, reality checked myself because I am also very well versed in the career and history of Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs would be saying the exact same thing, if not with worse rhetoric. So I shouldn't be surprised, but it still disappoints me that is the response, a bullyish, kind of a privileged feeding into the class war-esque or society war-esque between the two phones, which is it just was classless. I thought it was just very bad. And friend of the show, Hiroshi Lockheimer, agreed with me because he later tweeted, and his quote on Twitter was, "It's clear why Apple is opposing interoperability, but people should be able to send high-quality videos and photos to their mom without having to buy her a new phone. Hashtag get the message," which is absolutely correct. So I don't know. I know exactly why Tim Cook said that and why Apple's taking the position they're taking. I still don't respect it. So,
we got so much, less than happy feedback about RCS. So Google's been seeming a little bit desperate with some of their messaging, right? Like responding every chance they get, reminding like, "Hey, Apple, give us RCS," like every single chance they got. And all that Apple really needed to do was just to not respond. To not respond, right, and to let like the actual user feedback, which we got a lot of, like speak for RCS, like and kind of let that, let the RCS boat sink or not. And now that he said that, I'm kind of like, damn it, now I'm back on the RCS train just because, like, just on principle.
Just on principle.
Just on principle. So I don't know. He didn't have to say that.
So interesting response in chat. Big Boy is the handle, says Google is dissing Apple for months with its campaign, and you go ape poop with his response. And I think they're two different things. Like when I read that, I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I really do feel like it's two different things. I think Google is dissing Apple, saying, "Hey, Apple, here's a way to make things better for all users." Mm-hmm. And whether you out there listening and watching agree with that statement or not, that's what Google's saying. Google's putting the crosshairs on Apple. Apple's kind of putting the crosshairs, yes, on Google, kind of in a reactionary sort of way, but it's also kind of putting the crosshairs on, I think you said it really well, Ron, on this like privileged kind of perspective of, oh, you don't want to deal with this like bad messaging situation? Well, then why don't you just pony up and buy our device then, and everything will be magically solved. Not everybody is in a situation to be able to afford an Apple iPhone.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so it's very presumptuous, and I think that's the difference. That's what really rubbed me the wrong way. I totally get that Tim doesn't want to support RCS for any number of reasons, but like you, Ron, I've always kind of seen Tim on a different class level compared to others, running big tech. Like Elon Musk is the one example that really comes to mind. I don't see Tim Cook and Elon Musk in the same category, and I still don't. But this comment really gave me the, okay, you're really out of touch kind of vibes. And I didn't like that about it.
Yeah. Not good. Not good, Tim Cook. So, I gotta give you a thumbs down here. So.
Yeah. I understand why he wouldn't want to support it and why Apple doesn't want to support it. I get it. It's all business and everything. But I felt like that comment just was very, was classless. So that's why it rubbed me the wrong way. So anywho, so there was that was at the Code Conference. That happened after the Apple event. We don't really talk a whole lot about Apple events on this show because it's all about Android, but every once in a while it comes up because things happen that kind of cross those lines, the lines cross. And
I will echo,
yeah?
I'm sorry not to interrupt you, James, but I will echo this in terms of like an update on the phones of my family. I have told my sister to get the Pixel 6. She is figuring that out with Verizon. She might go to the Verizon store and get it there. But instead of the 6A, we went Pixel 6. But I did just purchase an iPhone 13 mini for my wife because she's on iOS. So there you go. So I can cross the aisle every once in a while.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just the way that it goes. Like Florence Ion, she'll be on the show next week. She's scheduled to be on the show next week. From my understanding, she's spending a lot of time with iOS. It's not like we live in this weird fantasy world where we don't understand that there are other devices that aren't Android.
Exactly.
The Apple will come up on this show from time to time. I'm sorry to say. But speaking of that Apple event, this next thing that I wanted to talk about was kind of interesting to me because it often seems like anyways, after an Apple event, there is usually the Android reaction, right? And it kind of comes in a couple of different flavors. In one case, Samsung has one of the flavors. The competing company starts to go out there with like an ad campaign that is really armed at showing you just how they've been doing it longer than Apple has, or that they've been doing something that Apple hasn't done yet. And in this case, that would of course be Samsung. They posted a Twitter thread soon after Apple's event, marketing image after image, kind of proving their point that, Apple 48 megapixels, huh? You're almost there, Apple. We've had 108 megapixels for 2 years, 6 months, and 4 days. And, what's the hold on the fold, Apple? We've been flexing for 2 years, 5 months, 20 days, bro. So, I find that funny. It's always a little bit of poking the bear, just in the Android realm, and we've certainly talked about it before, there are certain features that hit iOS that we're always, quick to be like, we had it first. And in this case, Samsung's the one doing that. So that's one reaction. And then the other reaction, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, but of course this is happening, is that there are developers out there who are scrambling to replicate what was probably one of the biggest surprise features of the iPhone announcement, which was this feature, what was it called? Why am I suddenly blank? The dynamic island. And essentially the idea of the dynamic island is the iPhone, whatever it is, Pro, is it 14, 15? I honestly can't remember. Has a cutout instead of a notch this time for the front-facing camera. And so what Apple created was something called the dynamic island. It basically blacks out where the camera is, like you are used to seeing with a cutout or a pill or a lozenge or whatever. But then when a notification comes through, they basically built an API around that notch area growing to reveal information. So essentially it becomes part of the UI instead of a limiting factor that you work around. It becomes just kind of part of the experience. And I don't know, I thought that was a pretty smart move on Apple to kind of embrace that.
Very
and
clever.
Now we have developers, as shown on the video. If you're watching the video version, there was someone on Twitter from TechDroider who tweeted out an example of and this is an app in China. I was looking for this and I couldn't find it. So it'll probably hit here eventually. That does this, allows you to create the dynamic island effect for your device. And my understanding of this is that it allows you to, because every Android device has different size cameras in different places and everything. So with this app, you can actually kind of, of course, it's Android, customize where it is, how large the camera hole is, get it dialed in just right, and then have those notifications kind of spring from there in a similar fashion. So, the other side of the Samsung example is, Apple did something, we're going to do it too. So brace yourselves. We're going to see a lot of dynamic islands coming to Android here in the coming months.
That's a great band name, by the way, Dynamic Islands.
Dynamic Islands.
I do want to note that the person that posted this Xiaomi theme, the next tweet in that thread was the theme name is Grumpy UI in Chinese, and I just kind of feel like that kind of encapsulates that that reaction of like, oh well, kind of thing. But, yeah.
Why weren't we there first? Why didn't we think to do that? Yeah. It's pretty smart. It is interesting though. That's one of those things that when you see it, you're like, oh, I'm really surprised no one thought to do that before. And I am. I'm really surprised no one thought to do that before. But now we're going to see it a bunch.
I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
Someone did do it. The HTC U Ultra did it with a separate screen. And it had a separate secondary screen.
Okay.
Except they just kind of left it there and they didn't develop it. So you can literally show like you could put like a couple things in it, and it just. Ugh.
So the top bar was kind of reserved. Yeah. And it's not just HTC. LG also had a secondary little sliver screen. Do you remember that, Ron? This is probably sometime in the last 3 to 4 years.
Vaguely, yeah.
And but I guess what I'm saying is, like, it's one thing to have that area be notifications. It's another to like, well, no, I guess they're about the same.
Yeah.
I guess they're both kind of achieving the same thing, which is turning that kind of what could be dead space into notification space. It's just animated differently. So I guess maybe they are the same.
Well,
I guess you're
there's
right.
like a thing too where everybody's like, it's not a notch, it's a dynamic island. So it's like,
Yeah.
It's a very clever way of hiding the dead space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, really
That's
clever.
all it is.
Yeah.
It's really clever. It's a great solution.
Totally.
And that's it. It actually reminds me. Do you remember like the Motorola 360 because it had a flat tire? It really kind of reminds me of. There were some watch faces where it actually used like the bottom portion of the flat tire
In the design, right?
Yeah.
In the design. And
Yeah.
I like that, but it really made me, I mean, this is a lot more dynamic, to be fair, and a lot more clever and a lot more like math is going on here. But it's definitely a great idea. And I love the idea that it's making something disappear. But it's a very clever UX.
Yeah. Well, and I also remember when hole punches were first starting to appear, there were developers that created apps that would put like your battery life as a little like red line around the hole punch, and then as your battery would deplete, that line would kind of, so it was taking this hole punch that had to be there in the design of this device and making it useful in a different way as kind of working with your limitations. And yeah, so yeah, I think it's really clever. But, I'm probably giving too much credit to Apple, and I'm sure we're going to hear from people because you're right, Burke. Thank you for pointing that out. It's not the only time that we've seen that space be used for something like this in the world of Android. It's just Apple sometimes has an elegance about how they design these things that are appealing. Like, it's appealing to see that thing grow. And if you didn't know that there was a camera under there that was designing around, then you just think it's a feature. And I think that's kind of why it's
Well, they do what Apple
smarter.
does, which is they find something interesting. They wait till somebody drops the ball, and then they come in and they do it right,
Yeah.
and they support it, and they make it interesting, and they make it
right.
right.
I don't
more right.
I mean that's not fair.
In this situation, it is. I feel like.
I think they put resources behind it and develop it to fit
Right.
the best within iOS, right? Whether or not that's right or wrong, having used an iOS phone and seen some of the things that they lifted from Android, I argue whether they did them right or not, but they, but they did them nonetheless. I will give them credit. This is very cool and it looks cool in theory. I'm curious how it works in practice, but
Yeah.
Well, and this is an advantage of them having such a tight ecosystem of one OS and their own series of devices. Because, I mean, certainly, conceivably, you can do this on Android, and there is an API in Android that lets you tell if there's a notch and where it is and all that. Now, from an Android developer's perspective, I would have to test that on, like, if I wanted this to be a successful app, would need to make it work on a whole bunch of different phones, which is not something that a lot of developers have the resourcing and time for, and there's always going to be holes. So this is definitely something that is a clever idea, but is also really can be taken really clear advantage of by Apple because they have a small set of things that this is going to look amazing on, and they can make sure that it looks amazing on every single place that it conceivably be. So
yeah, right.
So yeah, not jealous. Just
Not jealous.
saying, like,
Just saying, I'm not jelly.
Just saying,
I'm not jelly. I don't want that. I want that, but that there, pointing to the Pixel. Who knows? In 2 years, Google will have its own dynamic island. What'll Google call it? What will Google call the dynamic island?
I mean, I will give them credit. Dynamic Island is a great name. I
don't know. I think
really
it's
like
kind of
that.
weird, to be honest.
I like it. I like it.
I heard it. I was like, oh, I don't know. There was something about it. I mean, it's an interesting name, but a dynamic island is a name.
I knew exactly what they meant. I knew exactly what it meant when they saw it. Yeah, totally. Because it's an island. It's a little island that changes size based on the content. Like it made sense to me. It clicked.
Now, what about this before we move on? Because now we are talking all about Apple.
All about Apple.
When I look at the dynamic island, often when I've seen it, and
it sounds like a TV show name. Like it's got so many different practical
Dynamic
uses.
Island.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the notification shade on Android.
Yes. Yeah.
So so the difference is that it's not connected at the top and it's on an island. Like, I don't know, like they're very similar. So in many ways, Google kind of, Android did it first. I don't know.
Android's always done it first. That's the thing. I mean, Apple did it first, then Android came along, then Apple, then it's a tennis match. So.
Yeah, it's totally good.
Robbo in Discord has Google's name for this feature. It'll be called the notification pond.
That's a good one too.
We have our own body of water.
Notification Oasis.
Notification Oasis.
Yes.
That's it. Oh, there we go. Right on. All right. Let's move on from this Apple's nonsense. When you've got the next one.
All right. Well, we got a whole bunch of Android features to talk about. All right. So, they all got dynamic islands, but if you got the September Android feature drop, now it's not just Pixel feature drop, but it's an Android feature drop, you got some new stuff. So we talked about self-share some time ago, and that's basically being able to use nearby share so that you can share files to another device that you're logged into with the same account. Well, they've actually smoothed that over so that if you are self-sharing now, via nearby share is a lot more of a, kind of streamlined experience where if you are logged onto two different devices and you nearby share, the file transfer completes automatically, and you don't even have to have the other device turned on. So making self-share a little more streamlined and shiny.
Nice.
Another thing is that Google Workspace apps continue to better support large screens. And if you want widgets, you can get some widgets. In fact, you can get some bolder, bigger, better, easier to read widgets. So in the September feature drop, Google Keep and Google Drive have made their widgets bigger, easier to read, easier to do things from. And in fact, the Google Drive widget now includes buttons for Google Sheets and Google Docs. So it's now your little Google Work command center in a widget. Now, moving to emojis, and I think we're going to talk, actually, there's quite a few emoji stories tonight. But if you remember, there is a feature that's been out in the wild for a little bit called Emojify, which is basically Google using their fantastic, language processing power to, as you're typing, allowing you to emojify any text by kind of looking at the context of what you're typing, giving you a little magic wand and saying, here, would you like some more emojis? And now I think Flow had it for a bit. I haven't seen it, but it's starting to roll out of beta and into prime time. So if you did not think you had enough emojis in your life, you will soon get a magic wand that appears in the suggestion bar over top of Gboard to help you emojify things. And along with that are more emoji kitchen mashups. So if you love that Gboard feature where if you type an emoji and it starts suggesting to you all kinds of weird mashups and like different stickers that you can like add in and like really kind of just have all the emojis all at once, then you got that as well. Now, in terms of Google Duo or Google Meet, Google
whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
What is it?
Whatever you want to call it. There's actually some fun stuff coming to Google Meetlet, Duo, whatever you want. The messaging app, the chat app.
Meetlet.
So
Did you just call it Meetlet?
Meetlet. Let's call it Meetlet. So what's really cool is that Meetlit, Google Meet, is adding some live sharing fun so that on a call, you can actually do activities together. So you could co-watch a YouTube video. You can play some games like Kahoot and Heads Up and Uno all together on the same Google Meet call with up to 100 folks at the same time. Have you ever? Can you play?
Wow, that's a lot of people playing.
That's a lot of people.
One
That's
of those
very
games.
It's a lot of people. But it's kind of, I think, again, going towards the mashup of Meet, which was a little more like productivity, a little more businessy feeling, and Duo, which was a little more delightful, kind of personal, and trying to bring, fun features for you to do with your group calls, especially if you aren't traveling right now for whatever reason, you want to still hang out and play Uno with your grandma and your auntie. You can do that on Google Meetlit or whatever, that app that you can chat on. And then in terms of accessibility, you've got a couple of new interesting features. Google is releasing something called sound notifications, which is part of the live transcribe and notifications feature. And it can actually detect household sounds like fire alarms, running water, your dog barking, door knocks, door doorbell, and actually alert you on your phone or your watch as they occur. And you can even record your own custom sounds that it will notify you for. So if you have like a microwave or I don't know, like just some sounds that, you need to be aware of, you can have sound notifications for it. Yeah. And so this is for folks that maybe have, some difficulty with hearing. Now for folks that that are blind or have low vision, Google TV now has audio descriptions for certain curated TV shows and movies. And the audio descriptions are actually narrating live visual information. So if there's kind of a big thing happening in the show or TV or whatever, where there's not really any sound going on and it's highly visual, certain TV shows and movies now have kind of basically narration of this so that you can, if you are a blind or low vision person, you can still experience the excitement or the non-excitement depending on how good or how bad the TV show or movie you're watching on. So that is on Google TV. And if you want to find those, you can search for audio description movies. And just to wrap things up, if you like Keep and you want Keep on your Wear OS, you got that. There's going to be a new tile that allows you to manage your to-dos on your Keep from your wrist. And finally, if you're a Bitmoji kind of person, and you want to see your Bitmojis reacting and doing making complications on your Wear OS, you got that too. So whole bunch of stuff. And on top of that, so that was a whole bunch of feature drops. The Android 13 QPR1 Beta 1 also released recently, and our very own Michelle Rahman had an entire thread kind of going over a lot of both the kind of half-baked, whole-baked, still kind of raw features that he encountered while going through the QPR1 beta. I won't read through everything. Michelle has a really great thread on Twitter that you should kind of follow. It's very much like a blow by blow as Michelle is trying to find these different features. But just some things of note is that the Safety Center, which is like the combined security and privacy section, is starting to go live. There are more codecs for Bluetooth, which we kind of talked about recently, and Bluetooth LE did end up working for Michelle on his Pixel eventually through a developer option. Battery health info is coming. So we talk a lot about battery life on the show and all the things that might factor into you being, at 15% by dinner time. Apart from the apps and your usage, battery health factors into that quite a bit, because batteries degrade over time. So now Android is actually adding in battery info so you can see how healthy or not healthy your battery is, and that will be coming soon. And I forgot that Android had screensavers, so they're kind of trying to bring that back up, and they're adding they're using the watch term complications, but basically any additional functionality, they're going to add kind of at-a-glance type widgets to your screensaver, so you can, for example, control your smart devices from your screensaver, which I feel like I think all of us would be kind of excited about this because we talked about how different versions of Android were hiding and showing smart home controls. So now Android is possibly throwing those on your screensaver. And last but not least, there's now a guest mode feature, which sounds like if someone wants to use your phone, you can kind of quarantine them from your data and likewise kind of give them their own little sandbox to play on your phone with. And there's options to both delete, say, that guest mode data or persist it between sessions. So there you go. A whole bunch of That was Android 13. Oh, did I say a bad word? I'm sorry.
I was like, wait a minute, did that just happen? Yes, it's
so
okay.
sorry.
You got excited.
Whole bunch
It's all right.
Stuff. Whole bunch of beep
Wow.
in Android 13 QPR1 Beta. And that, of course, is the QPR1 Beta. But if you just want some regular little nice features without having to enroll in the beta, you got that feature drop as well. And I'm going to stop now before I say any more bad words.
I love it. I think that's great.
Funny.
I said a bad word.
Wow.
I was like, I'm sure she was talking about a ship in the water. That's exactly what she was
How
talking
much more
about.
ship? Yeah.
A ship that is navigating Google's notification Oasis. That's what's happening.
There you go. Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. Totally.
That's a lot of stuff. Like that's a pretty significant Android feature drop. And I think I only realized when you said it, when you made the point that it's not a Pixel feature drop. This is an Android feature drop for all Android devices of a certain version, I suppose. So
Meaty.
Nice. Meaty. Chunky. That's great. Cool stuff. Well, hey, you know what? We've got even more news coming up. That's right. We've got a second news block coming up. But first, over to you, Ron.
So much news. But first, we're going to take a pause and we're going to say thanks to our first sponsor this episode. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by New Relic. And, devs are some of the most curious people, the first to explore the newest tech, wanting to know how and why things work. That's why so many engineers turn to New Relic. New Relic gives you data about what you build and shows what's really happening in your software lifecycle. It's a single place to see the data from your entire stack, so you don't have to look into 16 different tools and make those connections manually. New Relic pinpoints issues down to the line of code, so you know why the problems are happening and can resolve them quickly. That's why more than 14,000 companies use New Relic. When teams come together around data, it allows you to triage problems, be confident in decisions, and reduce the time needed to implement resolutions using data, not opinions. So use the data platform made for the curious. Access the whole New Relic platform and 100 gig of data per month for free. That's 100 gig of data per month, free forever, no credit card required. Sign up at newrelic.com/AAA. That's NEWRELIC.com/AAA. newrelic.com/AAA. And we thank New Relic for keeping us curious and informed. I love making database decisions. So thanks, New Relic.
Don't we all? We all love those decisions. Thank you, New Relic. Okay, it's time for more news. And actually, you brought up emoji and there is more emoji news. I know. Buckle up because it just keeps coming. Emoji news for Android. Google is previewing big changes that are coming in December. So don't expect new emoji quite yet, but apparently you're going to be getting 31 new characters. That's part of the Unicode 15.0 release. So that's coming soon. You can kind of see some of them previewed, I think, right there, right? There's a.
Ooh.
It always surprises me with new emoji because I'm like, really, that wasn't there before? Why was that not there before?
Because I'll tell you what it is that like the emoji set that appears in keyboards and phones is like the official emoji has, by those of us that use Slack and Discord, have gotten sullied by the custom emoji that you can load into those applications. And so often I'll find myself in a text message looking for a I'm not going to say emoji, but a Slack emoji that I use in Slack all the time. Like, oh, right, that's not an emoji. That's something someone already added. So,
yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think you're right. Yeah. Depending on what software you're using, what platform, you're always seeing different stuff anyways. It's hard to keep it all straight. Yeah. So as you can see right there, emoji animation, this is something that Google actually has a full gallery that you can thumb through. Nearly 200 emoji have been animated so far. So you're going to get emoji animation. So if those pictures just staying there by themselves, isolated, aren't enough. Now, so you're looking at the gallery. If you click on any one of those, Burke, it'll kind of kick off the animation. And so you can kind of get a chance to see the dynamicness that is animated emoji, because that's what we need is more movement. It's just boring to look at a picture that's just like staring at you. These pictures need to be sticking their tongue out and their eyes need to be blinking and everything. That's what needs to happen. So anyways, it'll bring more life to your emoji. There's a new font format called Color V1 that allows for color customization on Emoji. Apparently, this is all done in the browser. Certain browsers support it. Of course, Chrome and Chromium support it right now. I don't believe that Firefox does yet. And this isn't the kind of thing where like I could customize an emoji and send it to you. It's more like a proof of concept from my understanding of it anyways. But maybe at some point it'll be that easy where it's like you can customize in color and send off. So there's that. Yeah, that's what you're looking at there. See, you can see those little boxes down below, and you can start kind of playing around with different aspects of the duck that we're looking at. So you can create different types of duck.
There's some pretty silent ducks if you scroll down.
Yeah, if you scroll down, you'll see a what is it? A vaporwave duck.
Ooh,
duck from the 20s.
Film noir duck. Yeah.
I love a film noir duck.
Yeah, sunburned ducky. So there you go. You can do that. And then a Noto emoji is an open source emoji. It's been there before. It's been black and white prior. Now it's getting full color support. So it kind of seems like this emoji update is really about bringing more life to emoji for Android. Of course, you're not getting any of this quite yet. It's coming in December. You can look forward to. Oh yeah, that's something that I actually didn't write about in my notes. But you can combine. So if you take a colored heart and you can kind of string emoji together. So the top example is a lemon plus a green colored heart, and it pulls the color from the heart and turns it into a lime and things like that. Turns the red rose into a yellow rose with a combination of a yellow heart or a goth lips.
That's all you, Jason.
That's me right there. Goth lips. Yep. That's what they call me.
So cool.
Goth lips.
Good old goth lips. That's what we call them.
Let's not look too deeply into why they call me that. Let's just move on. So anyways, there you go. If you like your emoji, as we know that Florence does anyways, if she were here, she'd be giving you the rundown on this story. But are you a big emoji fan, Wynn? Is this your bag?
I am. And actually, for when I worked at Trello, I got really into the emoji weeds with implementing reactions for Trello because, everything has to have reactions now. So
right.
Like 4 years ago. It's actually really cool. The technology behind it is really interesting. If you pull back up the goth lips, kind of like the formula that makes goth lips, it's actually Unicode is a really cool standard. And like a lot of the kind of a variety of emojis that we have now is done. It's really cool how the system works because if you say like, we have like different skin tones, we have like, emojis can be like, say like a family emoji can have like two like males, two females, a male and a female. A lot of that is done with just math. So depending on how you format it, you can literally put hand and then a special skin block color. And then it just automatically combines that to, I don't know, light skin tone, dark skin tone hand. And so it's not too far away from that where you take, and it's almost like they're expanding the math that you can do with emoji.
The language, yeah, right.
The language of emoji. And so I just think this is really cool. And what's awesome is that it's kind of building on a really cool system and allowing things to customize. And like for now, it will be like, just experimental, but there's so much you can do now. And like this is all backed by SVG. So basically, instead of just having hard-coded images, everything is like drawing commands. That's why you can do color now. Instead of just having like some commands that are stored in a static file, you can be like, well, make, slot A blue and slot B green. So the Unicode system is really amazing. And like, it's kind of cool to see the way that it's logically building up these more complex and more customizable emojis. So yes, I am totally all for this. It's really cool. The tech behind it is both clever and interesting, but also results in something really simple. So I'm into it. It's really great. Emojis are awesome, y'all. It's a really fun standard. So yes, I'm so excited.
I think hearing you describe it has given me a little bit of extra wonder about emoji because it's easy for me to see emoji and just think like, oh, that's just an image that I'm putting on this thing. But the way you're describing it, it really is kind of a language in and of itself. Of course it is. That's Unicode. But yeah. But it's easy to not see that part of it and just see it as an image. But these things combine together and they do kind of have a life of their own. So that is pretty cool. It's cool that that's become a standard that is so interoperable, between all these different devices and apps and platforms and everything. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Sweet stuff. All right. Wynn, you got the next one.
Okay. So Google is moving on and moving up and taking phone RAM requirements with them. So there are new RAM requirements for phones that want to license Google Mobile Services or GMS. So GMS is basically a bundling of both Google Play services, which are the SDKs that include things like location, like steps and all that kind of stuff. All these like Google proprietary like SDKs that allow you to kind of use some of their specialized services, and bundling that with Google Apps. So Gmail, why am I blanking? Gmail, Google TV, all of like the Google proprietary apps that normally you think come pre-installed on your Android phone. This GMS bundle, so all this proprietary Google stuff, both the APIs and the apps, you have to actually license from Google in order for your phone to come pre-installed. So there are always like requirements for this licensing, and those requirements include hardware. So the hardware, the RAM rather, that Google was requiring for hardware manufacturers to be able to license GMS and come like pre-installed with all the Google goodness is actually increasing. So it's a little bit hard sometimes to find out what the hardware requirements are for you to be able to license GMS and all the Google things, unless you're actually like going through the process of as a hardware manufacturer going in and like requesting stuff. But we got a good kind of hint to what the hardware requirements are from a post from the Android developers blog talking about Android Go. So Android Go is a version of the Android operating system that is geared towards entry-level / low resource phones. It's really meant to be for providing, a phone and operating system that can work in kind of like developing markets. So in a recent Android developer blog post, they specifically stated that for Android Go phones running Android Go 13, the devices must have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, which seems like nothing. But it is doubling in effect the RAM that was previously required for Android Go. And I mean, it's just interesting. Like, I think we talked, occasionally in the last couple of weeks about, updates and like things like, why do we care about 5G, or why do certain kind of like, things matter? Why do we have to keep upgrading and things like that? And it's a lot of it is like, as technology kind of moves forward, as streaming services, as video, as like the capabilities that we expect our smartphones to have increase, the RAM requirements increase, the resourcing increases. So this is kind of a big deal. I mean, like 1 gigabyte of RAM seems like insane nowadays. So the title of this article from Android Police was, quote, Google puts 1 gigabyte RAM phones out of their misery with the new GMS requirements. And that's totally true. So yeah, it's just an example of trying to, unfortunately, even though we would love to support every single phone forever, having to raise the low bar a little bit just to kind of grab everybody that can follow us into the future. So if you are on an Android Go phone that happens to have 1 gigabyte of RAM, do not upgrade to Android 13. But it really shouldn't affect too many phones. I think most Android Go phones even have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM. So yeah, there you go. Fast and forward into the future, 2 gigabytes of RAM is going to at least got to take you there. So,
man, I remember when the Go phones launched, wasn't the minimum like the GMS requirement 512,
512, right? 256. I think it was 512.
Yeah,
Can you imagine? That's crazy.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. You just can't do very much with a very small amount of RAM. And not just that, storage space too. Like even on some of these phones, if you've got 8 gigs of storage, you can really only install a couple. And I'm talking like a couple, like maybe 5-6 apps from the Play Store before you start, ending up with the no space remaining issue. And so does that phone work in those markets? Well, yeah, I guess technically it does, but the limitations are so severe. So yeah, you can make phone calls, as Berg said in Slack. There you go. It's a phone at that point. But, yeah.
It's hard because I know like it's really hard. You want to support everyone forever, but eventually it just becomes too much of a burden, like especially for like Android Go. Like if you want to develop an Android Go like version of the app, you have to hyper optimize. You have to everything needs to be buttoned down. You need to be testing. And so eventually to make it feasible for any developer to want to target Android Go phones because we theoretically do. You kind of just have to do things like this, like raise their hardware requirements as we go on. And it's probably it's just gonna go. It's just a thing. It's like a little window of valid devices, and it just slides up every 5
Yeah, it has to happen at some point eventually.
So
Yep.
So yeah, 2 gigabytes.
There you go. That mega amount of 2 gigabytes. All right.
There it is.
Speaking of calling, Ron, this is next.
Yeah, speaking of calling and noise canceling, Jason, that's a little behind the scenes joke.
Yeah, right.
So,
these weird little clicks in my ear. I'm the only one that's hearing them. Pretty sure it's a figment of my imagination, but anyway.
Sure it is. So not only upgraded from friend of the show, contributor to the show, Mishal Rahman, good friend of ours, he spotted a clear calling feature along with the Android 13 quarterly release. And this would be a noise canceling feature in the phone app that quote unquote reduces background noises during calls. Not available for Wi-Fi calling though, so important to note that. And Mishal tweeted instructions for enabling it without root if you want to check it out. So if you are someone who uses the phone a lot to actually talk to people, why would you ever do that? And you're concerned about the call quality and you're not using Wi-Fi calling, check out Clear Calling. If you're not a crazy person like the rest of us, just text them. No need to talk to them.
Sometimes talking is just easier.
No, I know.
But yeah, and I mean, Google has a lot more practice now in this whole noise cancellation thing. The Pixel Buds Pro, they have their noise cancellation as part of that. They're using AI for all sorts of things. It makes sense that they'd be able to, create some really nice noise reduction algorithms to deal with the most obnoxious, noisy things that happen in phone calls. But yeah, do a video call or like a duo call. You'll have much clearer audio. You won't have to, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring, these noise reduction algorithms to their other communication platforms as well.
Yeah, laying the groundwork for sure. Yeah. Once it works in one spot, you can apply it to other ones. So why not?
Although I imagine the noise cancellation that happens with a low fidelity phone call, you know what I mean? The limited frequency range of a phone call versus the much broader frequency range that you get in like a duo call or meet or whatever the heck they're calling it these days. But there's probably just, minor differences that would have to be made to shift that, to look at a different aspect of the sound, the frequency. So yeah. That's cool.
Cool stuff.
I like that. All right, we are going to get into even more news, but this time it's going to be hardware, and it's actually not going to be news. It's going to be rumors. So that's to give you an idea of what you have to look forward to. Don't go anywhere, because I promise you it's going to be a lot of fun. But first, let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is Collide. The challenge with device security, it's always been that it's difficult to scale, right? It's difficult to scale really good security on the device level. The bigger you are, the more edge cases you introduce, and the easier it is for very significant issues to escape your notice. Things get through. Well, when remote work took over, that challenge got even harder. Whether you're a fast-growing startup that needs to graduate from managing device inventory in Google Sheets or an enterprise trying to speed up service desk issues, you actually need visibility into your fleet of devices. That's in order to meet the security goals and keep everything running smoothly. But how do you achieve that visibility? Especially when your design team uses Macs, your accounting team is on Windows, your most talented developers, of course, they're on Linux. Well, how do you do that? You get Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that actually gives IT teams a single dashboard for all devices, regardless of their operating system. And Collide can actually answer questions MDMs can't. Questions like, do you have production data being stored on devices? Are all of your developers' SSH keys encrypted? And a whole host of other data points that you'd have to write a custom shell script in order to learn about. And when you really think about it, check this out. If a Linux vulnerability is exposed tomorrow, how exactly will you figure out how many machines are at risk? You're going to file a ticket with the team that manages your MDM and then wait days to get a report back? You'll send a mass email and maybe hope the Linux users open it. Hope, cross your fingers. With Collide, you have real-time access to your fleet's data. And instead of installing intrusive agents or locking down devices, Collide actually takes a user-focused approach that communicates security recommendations to your employees directly on Slack, where they are. So you can answer every question you have about your fleet without intruding on your workforce. Isn't that nice? Visit collide.com/AAA and you can find out how to do that. If you follow that link, they're going to hook you up with a goodie bag that actually includes a t-shirt in that bag just for activating a free trial. It's a really nice t-shirt, actually. That's KOLIDE, collide.com/AAA. Check it out for yourself. And we thank Collide for their support of All About Android. All right, we got some hardware to talk about. Hardware rumors coming up next. It's all Pixel related, right?
Are they dirty rumors?
Yeah,
gosh.
they're more, yeah.
This is why, everyone, you got to listen to the live show. If you know, you know. So, there we go. Okay.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Okay. So dear Lord, we were talking
Gwen,
about
take
the
a break.
QPR.
It's okay.
Yep. Okay. Hold on.
Ron did set
You
you
broke
up on
Win, Ron. You broke Win.
It's not just Rod. It was everything going on.
Well, it was mainly me. I'll take the
Mainly
credit
you.
for that,
Okay.
yeah. No.
All right. So we talked about the QPR1 Beta, and it didn't just have software goodies in it. It had some hardware secrets hidden inside.
Oh, yeah.
So we know that the upcoming Pixel tablet is codenamed Tangor. And folks like our own Michelle Rahman have found references to Tangor as a device inside of the Android code base already. Well, the APK Insight team over at 9to5 Google found another device named Tangor Pro. Because we know it takes two to Tangor. So we don't, sorry.
Nice.
We barely know anything about the Pixel tablet yet, but we now are pretty sure there's actually going to be two of them with a Pro variant. So it's not really surprising, right? Because there's a lot of Pro variants in our increasingly building Pixel ecosystem. Now, what the Pro tablet is going to be, we have no idea because we barely know anything about the regular Pixel, the baseline Pixel tablet. But what the APK Insight folks can tell us is that the rear camera sensor will be different, and which makes sense because there are other rumors that the Pixel tablet base model would use the same sensor found in the Pixel 3 and Pixel 6a. And, we can't really be sure about anything, but if we kind of look at, the differences between the Pixel Pro phones and the kind of baseline models, we can maybe assume that the Tangor Pro might have a better display, more RAM, similar kind of spec upping. So apart from letting us know that there is going to be a Pro version, there was actually some little animations and accompanying text that are kind of like little previews. They look like onboarding / support animations that, you would see when you first plug in or kind of log into a new device. And so we have two animations that are giving us a little bit of a hint, a little preview of how the Pixel tablet, how the Tangor might work. So the first animation shows the tablet sliding down vertically into a dock. And once plugged in, it will charge. And then boom, you'll get access to very hub-like things like the assistant. Looks like you got some music going on, some photos, some alarms. And to further support this, the text that kind of came along with this animation stated that, things like, you can use your Google Assistant while the tablet is locked. And you can even play music and view it directly from the lock screen. So kind of similar to that idea of like the screensaver and other, more static screens, but with kind of complications / widgets on them. And very much like how your Nest works now, you should still be able to, even though this is technically an Android tablet, use it in a very hub-like way. So being able to directly access a lot of our favorite hub features and even say display your own curated selection of photos, artwork, and clock faces on this tablet. And the second animation, and if you're on the video stream, you can see it there, more or less shows us how we undock it, which looks like as opposed to kind of reversing the vertical slide in, you actually pull out from the bottom to kind of like swing it out of the dock. And
that's a little weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'm not quite sure the physics of that.
Yeah.
But, there you go.
I like it. I like it though.
It's pretty neat.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, as you can see here, there's a lot going on. It's still like so I think the emphasis here is that even when it's docked, you can do a lot with it. So, sorry, Ron, go ahead. My bad.
No. I was just going to say it it really reminds me of the Pixel stand for the phones, for the Pixel phones. Because
yes, very much.
when you put that on there, you've got some expanded capability there. You can do home controls. You can have your customized photos navigating through. So it's almost like this on a larger scale, which brings it into the rumors that we've been talking about week after week of this like dock that the tablet sits into to turn into a Nest Hub like device. It's essentially this kind of the same thing as what we're talking about with a Pixel stand, but on a much larger scale. Mm-hmm. So, and then the other tablet, the other tablet, I think the feature that's missing from there are the things that we were talking about. Was it last week that we were talking about there were those sensors that were not there because why would you need those on a tablet that's just docking in to be a Nest Hub? That's its purpose for existing. Maybe the Pro actually has those things. But Ron, I cut you off. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the consistency in the line, I kind of like that, right? I could if you're you're going to build up okay, this is recognizable and it's consistent no matter which model. That's a good sign as far as I'm concerned. So.
Yeah. So a couple of tablets. That's something to look forward to. Do we think we're going to hear about the Pixel tablet at this event coming up?
I sure hope so. We talked about that last week. I want a tease of the foldable and a tease of the tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we know that they're talking about Nest devices at this upcoming event, so I think it would be kind of surprising if they didn't at least give more information about the tablet. Yeah.
Didn't we have some report that it was next year that there was a manufacturing report? Wasn't there something like that pointed towards it shipping next year?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, even Google said that when they first announced it, they said coming next year, the Pixel tablet. Yeah. So we know, I mean, unless they've changed anything, we know that their plan was to ship it next year, or at least give more information. I guess what I'm curious about is, are we close enough to next year that they start giving us more information?
Does the drip
details start? Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, it was about this time, this distance to next year was the same distance between I/O and the hardware event coming up, where we learned about the 7, we learned about the watch. We didn't learn very much about them, but we knew more about them than I think we know right now about the Pixel tablet. So, which
is their new, I refer to as the drip, because that's their new kind of marketing strategy where they're dripping things out until it's ready to roll out. And so and that gets ahead of the rumors and the speculations. It's oh yeah, we're doing a tablet. Here's what it looks like next year. It takes the air out of the mystery, like the Pixel 7, for example. How we've been talking about the Pixel 7 now since the spring, right?
Yeah, bring it. Come on, seriously, just bring a Pixel 7 at this point. Just give me one.
Yeah.
Been waiting.
All right, well, speaking of bringing it, if you're looking for Chromecast, you want to bring it with Chromecast, we're hoping to get some news about the Chromecast HD dongle, which is the cheaper version of its Google TV dongle. Developer Kuba Wojciechowski claimed on Twitter to have a full software build for the device, and it revealed a couple of things. The name, Chromecast HD, the chipset, the Amlogic S805X2, which is a big step down from the 4K model of the Chromecast, limited to 1080p and less raw power, although 1080p is still HD, so the name still works. It still lines up. It's not like it's not like it's going to 720. Jeez.
That's true. That would be pretty disappointing.
It's got, this is the real bummer, and this is where the Chromecast always falls short. 1.5 gigabyte of RAM, which is 25% less than the 4K model, which as an owner of the 4K model is not enough RAM.
Yeah. But I guess if it's HD and not 4K content streaming to it, maybe it's better. But.
Yeah, but the issue, I mean, even my Chromecast Google TV now, it lags. I click the remote and it takes a second. It is just I have to delete apps, right? It's not enough. The software is more powerful than the hardware specs allow it to be.
Yeah.
Or
right.
vice versa. The hardware specs are holding the software back in my point of view. But anyway, it's based on Android 12 and it's got support for virtual A/B seamless updates, meaning updates will be more frequent than current hardware, which if you're a Chromecast owner, you know that they're few and far between. So that's a good sign. So I don't know. And the price on this is going to be super affordable. So like it's hard to get down on this because it is a more mid-range version of Chromecast. It's not the 4K version. So
yeah, I mean the cost expected somewhere around $30, so pretty affordable as far as that's concerned. This is you've got that TV down in the basement. Yeah, sure, get one of these, throw it down there, or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's I would think that we're going to hear about that at this hardware event coming up. That would be one of the Nest devices, probably, especially considering we know more and more about this suddenly.
I have a question. Like, who doesn't have a Chromecast already? If you wanted one,
It's a good question. I mean, probably a lot of people, to be honest with you. I mean, there's probably a lot more TVs than there are Chromecasts out there in the world.
Yeah.
This could be a good upgrade. And I think I bought my parents like a Chromecast like when they first came out, and I think I got the first. I forgot when they went from like the more HDMI stick to like the more like the current form, and so it might be a good upgrade. And for $30, I think that's what I paid for every single Chromecast I bought my parents. So I kind of like the consistent pricing. It's familiar. It kind of sets the expectation. So I might upgrade them. Just because, as you said, Ron, like the updates were few and far between, so getting them a more updated version might be not bad.
Do your parents still use the Chromecast, or?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we have to remind them how to use it, but they still do. They still certainly do.
Nice. Cool. Well, you know what you're not going to be getting your parents, and that is a Pixelbook, because apparently the next Pixelbook laptop is reportedly canceled. It kind of seems like Google's getting out of the Pixelbook thing. This was a cost-cutting measure. As we know, Sundar Pichai, not too long ago, basically made the announcement that Google, as many big companies have been doing, times are tough. We're going to be really focusing our efforts, trimming the fat, blah, 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 blah. It kind of seems like the Pixelbook aspect of Google's business is the fat being trimmed. Members of the team have been moved elsewhere in the company, so that's when the team has been disbanded. Google doesn't just fire people or let people go. It's like they find another place in the company for them to go, and that's already happened. So the team is dispersed. It has been 3 years, which I kind of can't believe. It's been 3 years since the Pixelbook Go. I guess that makes sense. This whole time portal of COVID really messes with my memory on things. It's like, wait a minute, 3 years? Oh, yeah, I guess it was right before the pandemic happened, so that makes sense. So Chromebook out, tablets and wearables in. That's basically where we're headed as far as Google hardware is concerned. So not a whole lot more to say about that, I suppose. It's just there's a lot of Chromebooks out there. It's just you won't be getting it from Google anymore.
I will say, unrelated to this story, but to the graphics for our video viewers that was seeing we pulled up the article from The Verge. I don't know why they just destroyed The Verge recently. Have you seen that? They redesigned that website. Did the whole redesign. It's so bad. Sorry.
Actually, I would like to say, I would think it's less destroying for the computers that open it. That we used to actually use The Verge's webpage as a test to see.
It was a litmus test to see. Yeah. Is this browser working the way it needs to? Sure. Is this computer fast enough? Yeah. It is a very different.
It's a very different approach, and the article is actually the article pages aren't. I know this has nothing to do with Android. I'm sorry, but we're all nerds here. The article pages actually aren't that bad. It was the homepage that was just so jarring, and it was just like,
let's go look.
Yeah, and like the whole just the way like it's. They have this whole feed thing going down the side, and it's all like it's very.
It's gonna take some getting used to.
Yeah, and I also get like we're looking at this design on a desktop. It is clearly stacked and responsive for mobile, right? So if you look at it, imagine if it collapses into a vertical view on phones, which is which honestly the data says the majority of people are viewing web content on phones versus computers, versus desktops lately. But still, it's like that's very jarring. So.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of the Google Play Store proposed update. Remember we looked at it and it was like a lot of cards. It was like a lot of content like in tables.
Oh yeah.
And the pops of color. It really reminds me of that. Also, the new Verge logo makes me feel like I'm looking at one of those like puzzles. You know, like when you I don't know, like a visual puzzle or something. Because I know it's the Verge because I went to the Verge, but also like yes.
Are you sure? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, actually, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not.
The printer is starting to run out of ink, and so certain parts of it are printing and certain parts of it aren't. And you probably need to do an ink test and then go to the site again, and you'll get that back.
Didn't want to distract here, but that was just jarring. I found, so
fair enough. Fair enough.
Cool.
All right, Wynn, introduce us to JR.
Yes, well, it is time for this week's Android intelligence tip. So, in the year of our smartphone 2022, we often have complicated relationships with our notifications, especially when they're telling us about things we don't need to know about or we don't care about. But you cannot deny the value of a notification that reminds you of something that you might have forgotten or that's from someone super important. Well, today, like a good notification from a person that we really care about, J.R. Raphael is going to notify us about a notification feature that we might have forgotten and that we might want to give some priority to. What you got for us, J.R.?
Hey gang, hope everyone's doing all right. Today I want to show you a fun little Android feature that almost everyone seems to forget about. It's part of the Google-made Android Messages app, and it ties into a system-level option that was introduced way back in, 2020's Android 11 update? Somehow, hardly anyone seems to realize that it exists. For full confession, I actually kind of forgot about it myself up until pretty recently. But here it is. On any phone with Android 11 or higher, you can actually turn any of your contacts' faces into a custom notification icon. Pretty neat, right? And aside from making it super easy to see who messaged you, just from the icon in your phone's status bar, that'll also cause that person's messages to show up at the very top of your notification panel, whenever you swipe down from the top of your phone. And it's really easy to set up too. As long as your phone's running Android 11 or higher, the next time you get a message from someone in Google Messages, just do this. Swipe down from the top of your screen to see the notification, then press and hold your finger onto it for a second. That'll pull up a screen that lets you configure the notification, and from there you can tap the line that says priority, then just tap apply to save the changes. And yeah, that's it. Nothing more to it. The next time that person messages you, you'll see their shiny, happy, maybe even slightly greasy profile picture right there in place of the standard messages icon in your phone's status bar. And the notification will show up in a new special section above all your other alerts. Not bad. Hey, if you want more Android intelligence for your phone, come check out my Android Intelligence newsletter. You'll get 3 new things to try in your inbox every Friday, all sorts of good stuff. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to get started. That's androidintel.net/twit. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Greasy contacts. Ew. Yeah, there you go. Actually, this is a feature that I totally forgot about too. And I think what it is, I think I've realized that I've switched phones a couple of times since this was first rolled out, this feature. And I think when I switch phones, it doesn't retain that priority setting from phone to phone. It's one of those features that kind of gets left behind, and I forget to like reset them up again. I kind of wish that like transferred over. Maybe it does, and I'm just totally doing it wrong. But I used to have that set up, and it is really nice because you see the little image in your notification, like, oh, I need to call my wife or whoever it is. And yeah, I'm not getting those anymore. That I know. So
I will say I tried this on my Samsung Z Fold 4, and I think unfortunately One UI throws up one extra screen. So when you long click, you have to go into settings, but the priority notification is still there, but you have to go through like one more screen to do it because One UI. So if you're a Samsung user and you don't see it right away, just go into the settings button, and then you should still see priority there. It's just not quite as nice as on the Pixel.
Yeah. Isn't that just so true though? We're going to get some email about that one. All right. Let's take a break, thank the sponsor, and then we will get to some of your feedback that's coming up next. But first, This episode of All About Android is brought to you by IT Pro TV. This is how you educate yourself about the world of IT. This is how you get the best possible IT training that's going to allow you to accelerate your IT career. It's IT Pro TV. They have edutainers that make learning engaging and fun. You can do it on your own schedule. It's really quite awesome. With their virtual labs and practice tests, you're always going to be supported and prepared for your exams. And, one big reason for this is it fits into your schedule perfectly. You can actually binge those episodes in 20 to 30 minute increments, so you can really find the time that works for you. They have more than 5,800 hours of IT training. They're always updating that, by the way. They might have a video that, something changes in the world in the certain facet of IT. They are very quick to update those videos, get the most current content, and it's just super important, not only in this world that moves at a fast pace, but IT itself is moving at such a fast pace, so you need that up-to-date speed. Learn when and where you want. You can do that on desktop, Apple TV, Roku, or you can hit the road, use your tablet, your mobile device. One reviewer actually says, it's easy to understand what they're saying. It's well explained. The classes are very smooth, along with the notes and transcription given. By wrapping their own experience in with the course, it makes it easier to comprehend the hardest topics. They also make sure you feel confident enough to pass your exams. That's what one reviewer said. Another reviewer said, best website to study IT and cybersecurity related courses. I like the part where they make a few courses free for a weekend. And that is exactly true. They do that. Speaking of free courses for the month of September that we are currently 13 days into, you've got, Microsoft's free weekend, which is the weekend of September 17th and 18th. So that's coming up. That's the upcoming weekend. If you're listening to this during the week that it was recorded, today is September 13th. 17th and 18th is Microsoft's free weekend. You don't want to miss that. They're also featuring a free live webinar, All Things Cybersecurity with Daniel Lowry and John Strand. That's on Thursday, September 15th. So that's 2 days from now at the time of this recording. That starts at 2 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget about your IT team. You'll want to check out an IT Pro TV business plan and get your team all suited up as well with some awesome IT content. Get 30% off when you sign up at itpro.tv/allaboutandroid. Make sure and use code AAA30 when you do that. That lets them know that you heard about it on All About Android. That gets you the 30% off when you sign up as well. itpro.tv/allaboutandroid. Use that code AAA30. IT Pro TV, build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. And we thank IT Pro TV for their continued support. You've been with us such a long time. We so appreciate it, of All About Android and of the Twit Network. Thank you, IT Pro TV. All right, it is feedback time. AAA@twit.tv is the email address. 347-SHOW-AAA if you want to leave us a voicemail. Ron, you've got the first one.
I do. And first email comes in from Josh from Parts Unknown, who writes in and says, hoping you haven't covered this, as I'm a week behind on the show. Don't worry, Josh, we haven't, but should be catching up tonight. I saw this and it made me wonder how often Android is going to creep into those spaces once occupied by various flavors of Windows or Linux. And what he sent along was the example of an article in TechCrunch about the YOLO box, which is a YOLO box. It's a device that runs on Android and can run a live production with multiple cameras with no need for a desktop or laptop to manage the stream. The Pro version has an 8-inch screen with 3 HDMI inputs, USB port for webcam, SD card reader for play and record, line-in audio port, USB-A port to connect to a computer so it can be seen as a webcam, Ethernet port. And there's also a less powerful mini version, 5.5 inch with 1 HDMI and 1 USB port for a webcam. And it sells for about $1,300, which is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of expensive. I don't know, Burke. You live more in the land of the switching and
It's mainly it does the streaming too, and it's like kind of all in one.
Everything.
So it's not bad it's compact too.
Yeah, it is compact.
It's compact. Yeah, talk about good for remote and traveling and things like that. Like, oh man, being able to manage a multi-camera stream without lugging the studio behind you, the TriCast or anything like that. I mean, you think about what it can do.
Yeah, the only thing the streaming thing too, especially.
Yeah. The only thing that gets me about these sort of things, which is great, is that it is compact, but like when you are in practical use of it, look at all those cables going into it and like using 8-inch tablet screen to control a production is very.
It's got Ethernet.
It's got Ethernet though. That's pretty cool. So what's really cool about this is like all the different connections in that shot that we saw when we had the article up showing the device. But like think about being in the field and having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cables coming into the top of an 8-inch tablet, and then having to use 8 inches of space with your finger to tap and control a live stream from that. I mean, it's very, very cool because it's so portable and can do so much in a small package. But like, I've got a USB hub that's a similar size that's got like 6 cables into it. It's unruly.
Those things.
Some cables have more strength than the others and things like that. So
it's almost like you need something to mount that onto, something that has like a stable base to it, so that it can hold the strength of all those cables going. I think
the photo in the article shows that hooked up to a rig, and there the tablet is kind of to the side of the camera, which is cool. I mean, like that. I mean that it gives you so much versatility and options, and like Burke mentioned, with an Ethernet port, that's pretty powerful. So I would love to play with this thing. That's for sure.
This is where we need to like get some cross posting love from Ant and like get his feedback, because this actually reminds me a lot of like the on camera recorders, like a Ninja or something. And so I've done this before. I used to do like a lot of like in the field interviewing of Android people, very niche. But yeah, you're right, Ron. It's a pain in the butt, especially when you have like an HDMI port or HDMI cable and a power cable, and it's actually like pulling it both sides, and then like the arm that you have it on it's a pain in the butt. I will say though, because running on Android, I bet that the UI is a little bit nicer than most camera equipment. That's one thing that is so interesting to me, is that as camera tech gets better, a lot of times the user interfaces, the menus are still pretty like perfunctory. So I kind of wonder if that's better. Also, this makes me think of Tonal and friend of the show Gabriel Peel with Android in places that you don't expect.
Android's in so many places you don't expect.
It is.
Yeah, and half the time even when it's there, you don't know that that's Android underneath, right? Yeah. Because it's not like the device maker is like, and we're running Android, unless that's like a true feature, like the interoperability or the ability to swap in files or bring in files or whatever. Yeah. But most people, I imagine, in creating hardware like this, they want the Android part of this to be invisible and to be the back, in the back seat. The front seat is what we've created with it.
What the capabilities of it are. But that's really cool. We totally missed that. So good job, Josh. Thanks for sending it in.
Yeah, thanks,
we
Josh.
really appreciate it. So.
Interesting stuff. Jeff writes in to say, I have the Pixel 6 on T-Mobile in North Carolina, and 5G is a major improvement here. I get 4 times the speed of 4G. Just yesterday, there was a 5G outage in our region, and I noticed it immediately. I have not seen a battery issue on my Pixel 6 either. My battery is usually around 25% at the end of the day when I plug it back into the charger. I use my phone to listen to podcasts and ebooks while working and checking texts, social media, and emails all day. If I do use it for video, then I do see some battery drain, but I'm assuming that's from the screen time. Just wanted to let Ron know it's not a myth here. Ron.
Ooh,
called you out.
I love it.
Yeah. There you go. What more can we say? I think everybody has a different experience with 5G, and it really just depends on where you're at, how well it's built out. I have to imagine also at this point we're reaching more of a maturation, is that the right word? Maturity point for 5G, where these networks not only exist, like I feel like in the beginning they existed and everyone was like, yeah, so it says 5G, but I literally see no difference. Now it seems like there's been so much momentum and so much push from the mobile carriers around it that it seems like maybe they're getting in there and making the very major changes that need to happen in order for people to actually see that dramatic change. So some areas are just going to experience this sort of thing a lot better than other areas. So right on. Thank you for sending in your email, Jeff. We appreciate it. And you have the honors, Win.
Right. Well, we started the show with some shade, but we're going to keep the love train going with this week's.
A very loud one.
The week. That was nice and loud. From Benjamin. So Benjamin writes to us saying, last week on the show, there was an email regarding problems with Pixel phones. I've been a loyal Google phone customer since the Nexus days, and I have owned every flagship Pixel phone except the 3rd generation. The only Google phone I have ever had problems with was the Nexus 5X that boot looped.
Yeah.
The only Pixel phone... the only Pixel phone I've kept longer than 1 year was the 2XL, and it was fine for both years that I used it. My other Pixel devices got handed down to family and friends. As far as I know, the people who got them have not had any issues and got at least a year of use from them. Last year, I pre-ordered and received the Pixel 6 on launch day. From the start, it's been a great phone. My only issue is battery drain when on 5G with weak signal. I've read so many articles online with people complaining about issues with the fingerprint sensor and a number of other things. I have had none of those issues. Even the fingerprint sensor works great for me. I have both thumbs and index fingers registered. It takes a fraction of a second longer than the old capacitive sensors did, but it never fails to read my fingerprint. To add to my experience, my dad also loves his Pixel phones. He has had the 2XL, 4XL, and 6 Pro. I have asked if he's had all these issues that people report, and he said no. He did need to get a replacement for his 4XL because he had it in his pocket in the swimming pool, but that's not the phone's. That was not the phone's fault. Maybe we have both just been lucky.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Benjamin, for you and your dad for you writing in for you and your dad, kind of keeping this nice love train going, which maybe we needed after a bunch of shade, and being an Android and Pixel faithful, you are our email of the week, and that's really nice and refreshing.
Yeah, not too bad when you got it. It's a family affair. It's a family affair.
As I was yelling, what I was yelling to Jason was, that's happened. I had the 5X.
Yeah.
And boot loop to death.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
And I had the Pixel, or the Nexus also, boot loop to death.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Oh, the boot loop issues. At least we haven't seen. Have we seen that at all with the Pixels? I can't remember, but I don't believe we have. That felt very Nexus focused to me. I remember those well. Yeah. Good. Well, I'm happy everybody in your family has really great Pixel experiences. Yeah. Don't know what more to say, but thank you for sending in that email, Benjamin, and for being the email of the week. All right. We have reached the end of this episode full of love and full of shade. It's a tale of two parts.
And some shake.
And some shake.
And some
yes.
shake. Yeah.
You won't get it in the main part of this show, but there was a part where we had to shut down because there was an earthquake. Everybody's okay. Looks like it was like a 4.9 earthquake about 15 miles from this studio in Santa Rosa. So thankfully everybody's all right.
It took us about 20 minutes to calm Burke down, but he was breathing into the bag. He's doing the whole thing. So,
And I'm having these back channel messages with my wife right now, like, yes, everything's okay over here.
Okay?
How about you? Yeah, you all right? Okay, good. Phew. If you heard that message come through, that's exactly what that was. But let's wrap up this show so I can go ahead and survey what's going on after this crazy evening episode. Wynn, thank you so much for hopping on. What do you want to leave people with?
Just to make sure that y'all okay and make sure you follow correct procedure in the event of an earthquake. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Queen Code Monkey, and find my technical stuff related to Android on my website, randomlytyping.com. And that's it.
There.
Post earthquake care. Go for it.
Thanks, Wynn. Good to see you. And thank you, Ron. What do you want to leave people with?
Yeah, just follow me over on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. And yeah, that's it. Just enjoying the last few days of summer. So.
Yes, I know. Yeah. We're right there. Well, thank you, Ron. Also, big thanks to J.R. Raphael, Android Intelligence, for sending in those tips each and every week. I'm loving them. Keep up the great work. Also, big thanks to Victor behind the scenes for making sure you get the podcast after it's done. Thanks to Burke here, kind of behind the scenes, but also talking on today's show for pushing the buttons and being emotional support when we had an earthquake. Let's see here. You can find me. I almost thanked myself. Thank you to me because I'm awesome.
Pat yourself on the back there,
I'm Jason and I'm really cool. You can find me at Jason Howell on Twitter. You can also find me on Tech News Weekly every Thursday, along with Micah Sargent. We'll be doing that show this Thursday. Don't forget Club Twit, twit.tv/clubtwit. Pretty easy to remember that URL. Go there and you can find out all about our ad-free subscription tier. You get every single one of our shows with no ads. You get access to those feeds. You can choose to watch them with ads, of course, if you like, but you also get access to feeds without the ads. You also get exclusive content that's exclusive, absolutely exclusive to the Club Twit audience. It's a Twit Plus podcast feed that has all that stuff. Stacy's Book Club, Hands on Windows, lots of awesome content that you get access to. And then a members only Discord, which is just a heck of a lot of fun as well. $7 a month or $84 per year. Twit.tv/clubtwit. As for this show, we do the show every Tuesday evening. All you got to do is go to twit.tv/AAA and you'll find everything you need to know to subscribe, and you won't miss a single episode when you do that. So thanks for watching and listening. We will see you next time on All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands on Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.
Android.
Earthquake.
Earthquake.
Drop, cover, hold on, protect yourself. I'm getting the alert.
Oh, wow. Is this the first time we had an earthquake live on the show?
Earthquake detected. Drop, cover, hold on. Protect yourself.
Do I drop, cover, and hold on?
I don't know.
What do I do? Yeah, that was a little bit of a shake there.
I didn't feel it at all.
Wow.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I definitely felt that.
Well, I'm on a platform. Sorry.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay. Wow.
Ooh, my heart's moving a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah. It was moved.
Wait, nothing is even rocking at all.
We're feeling it again.
Oh wait.
Oh.
Look at the monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can kind of see it on the Zoom. A little bit of shake.
Not much.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, it's just like a real gentle.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who the heck knows? That's weird. I'm still hearing the clicking, by the way.
Is the clicking? Wait, was the clicking an early indicator
of the last hour and a half?
Yeah.
Early warning. Very early warning.
Okay. I don't know what to do now. I'm like, should I be under the table right now?
Well, let's chill for a second.
Yeah.
Actually, you probably want to come towards me if there's an earthquake. You're literally
geez.
like, that's literally like the heaviest part of the truss. Is where I can't show you.
Yeah. Okay. Estimated magnitude 4.9. 15 and a half miles away.
It's like a baby.
Wow. So,
but still, the point being,
do you have an overhead shot?
Oh yeah, hold on. I do. Got it right here.
This is like the.
Wait. No, not that one. Here.
There we go. So earthquake. Wow. Expect shaking. Estimated.
This is the first.
Yeah. Estimated magnitude 4.9. About 15 and a half miles away. Yeah. There you go.
I mean, they probably don't know the magnitude, so they're just like, look, it's coming.
That's interesting. I wonder how they, because they're putting something there. They're getting that information somehow.
It's crowdsourced, I thought.
I mean, I'm sure that I think the detection is crowdsourced to like pick up the sensors from the different phones. But there's got to be, they're tapping into some information, like the official information as well to pull back some of that.
There's got to be some sort of earthquake center that with an API or something.
Right.
That's
kind of what I meant, but was doing a horrible job.
We actually did we covered an article on it, but it was a long time ago. And I don't think we've had it. This is the first time I think they've used it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's the first time that I've experienced that. I didn't get the whole... Wasn't my phone supposed to do the thing where it like pulls up, like does a full screen and it's like, get under the tape, really loud. I feel like we've shown this off before. It was a Pixel feature.
It's a really underwhelming graphic, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it was like the standard notification when an earthquake happens. Kind of the same thing that you get for like an Amber Alert is what we got. But
there you go.
4.5. Yeah, that's what my phone was saying too.
Yeah.
4.9 is what mine was saying. Okay, well, that happened. It's interesting. Do we just continue? I don't even know where.